unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What is up, everybody? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. This is a college football media brand dedicated to big college football. I'm here with my co-host, Ian Gibson. How are you, Ian?
I'm doing very good.
So another round of big-time games. This is the preview show that we do on Wednesdays. We're filming it as of Tuesday afternoon, 12 p.m. my time Pacific, and 3 p.m. Eastern for Ian. But we'll try to be as up-to-date as we can with the injuries for these games, because I know there's games with quarterback situations in the Michigan USC game, Cam Rising with Utah, and then with SMU with Stone or the other guy, I can't remember his name. But let's dive into these games. So what we do is a preview show and a recap each week, Sunday being the recap, Wednesday being the preview. And then, we cover 4 major teams, which are USF Bulls in Tampa, Florida Gators, USC, and UCLA, because I live out here in LA. And then we will go over the big games that we think that have either conference implications or the 4 teams that we cover or playoff implications. And with that, let's get started on the week 4 preview. The first game we have is on Friday between 2 ranked teams, which you don't really see often, ranked versus ranked matchups on a Friday or Thursday game. It's kind of rare. It used to be something that happened quite a bit back in the day with the Big East, because the Big East used to have a ton of those. I know, Ian, you're probably way too young to remember those, but that was something that I loved a lot of, and it was a huge part of USF, being a part of that. They were on a lot of bad end of those with those Rutgers games, but
yeah, I don't want PTSD from 2007 again.
Yeah, but they had great games against West Virginia, that Friday night game, and we'll talk about that when we talk about USF in a little bit. But this is a ranked matchup between Illinois and Nebraska. I don't know a ton about Illinois besides the fact that they beat Kansas. Defensively, they seem pretty strong. Offensively, they're a classic Bielema team, and he's built this team off running the ball, which that is what they do. They like to run the ball. They didn't seem to run the ball a ton against Kansas, but they had some success through the air. But they definitely like to run the ball, and a big win against a big team like Kansas goes a long way. And now they're have an opportunity here against Nebraska. And, this Nebraska train is moving quickly. Raiola is building up speed as a hyped up player that, is undeniable at this point, because he had a big win against Colorado. If they get a solid win here, they have a real legitimate chance of getting to the Ohio State game undefeated at 7-0, which would be a huge matchup. Then I don't think Ohio State would lose that game, but it still would be a huge matchup. And, Matt Rule, in his second year at Nebraska has really done a lot, really seemed to have turned this program around, which, a lot of people have written this program off over the last several years. Bo Pelini had them in decent season records throughout his tenure, but then Scott Frost was terrible. So it's been kind of a program, off, trying to figure itself out. Their fans never left, and they never will, and they were dedicated, and they've stayed with them. And I think the administration found the right guy in Rule, and if he stays, the sky's the limit for this program, because they don't have I don't know, it just seems like it's a program that if they have the facilities, which they do now, They have the coaching. They can get kids from all across the country. It's not like it used to be where mainly Nebraska got kids from Nebraska. Now it's like they're able to get from wherever. And if they're building a good enough program, they're going to be competitive against anyone. But as far as the matchup goes, I like Nebraska in this one because it is a home game. And, they've got momentum right now. And so does Illinois. But I think Nebraska is in a better footing than the Fighting Illini. And I think it's going to be close. I'm going to say probably like a 28-21 game, and maybe like Illinois scores that one late to make it closer than it probably is, but it's going to be like a 28, like one score game at the end. But what are your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, with this one, these teams have actually played very similar to each other. They both have a balanced attack, both on the run and the pass, and defensively they are very, very good. This is definitely for Illinois' a prove-it game. Both of these teams, I think this is Illinois' best start since 2011, and for Nebraska since 2016. This honestly could be a prove-it game for both teams. I think what it's going to come down to is that Illinois' defense has done very good against the pass. I think they're like in the top 10 in pass defense. With the exception of Daniels of Kansas, they haven't played, well, even with Daniels, Raiola is a very like drop on a dime kind of passer, and he's still mobile in the pocket, but he's very accurate and he makes good decisions. And I think what they're going to try to do with the game plan is spread the secondary out that Illinois has. So I think it's going to be really close. I think defenses are going to show up, but if Nebraska can limit turnovers and their own mistakes, I think the Huskers will win it. I'm going to go with the Nebraska win. I'm going to go low scoring. I'm going to go 23-20 for the Black Shirts.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's going to be a close game just because Nebraska doesn't have like the firepower right now to like blow people out, but they definitely have enough talent with Raiola and some of the other pieces on the team to be able to make a difference. And like you said, you're thinking one score, I'm thinking one score, and it's more than likely. But there's also a chance in that Illinois could surprise us and win this game as well, I think too. Okay, Saturday games, NC State, Clemson. NC State got battered against Tennessee 2 weeks ago. This is a tough game for them to try to, counter that, tailspin. Their offense has not looked good. The game against Western Carolina, they looked putrid at best. And, that was, that's a, what is it, an FCS school. And shout out to Western Carolina, my homie Larry Murphy, the secondary coach there. No, I don't know. I mean, I have not seen anything that makes me believe that this NC State team is going to correct what they went through with Tennessee. And, Clemson went off last week against App State. Might be just a little of App State, not as good as they have been in years past. But I don't expect Clemson to put up that total, 66. I don't expect 51 either, like Tennessee did. I expect probably like a 28-34 point total from Clemson. And, I don't expect much out of NC State. Clemson got smoked against Georgia, but they've looked better since then. Obviously, Georgia is one of the better teams in the country, top 2 or 3, without a doubt. So Clemson is not on that level, but Clemson's probably on the level of like, anywhere from top 20 to top 15 team. I'm going to say they're able to move the ball enough, get the point total of like 34-28, and NC State is not going to be able to. Their offense is going to continue to struggle with Grayson McCall. And I'm going to say like at most NC State scores like 20. So I'm going to go with like a 31-20 game. What do you got?
Yeah, and with the week after the Tennessee game, I gave him NC State a mulligan because like I said, the difference between what the top level of the ACC and the top level of the SEC, the gap is way too big. So I gave him a mulligan on that one. And I wanted them to prove something to me against the La Tech game, but man, it really didn't look good as well. They won 30-20. They did get 30 points, but they were in a dogfight for most of that game. And La Tech like struggled against Nichols State when their first game. So it wasn't the most encouraging thing. And I just think Clemson, again, they are good in the ACC. If they do not sleep on this game, which Clemson has had a habit of ever since Sabo Sweeney's gotten there, that there are games where they just like will fall asleep at the wheel, and NC State bit them in 2021 on that. But I think Clemson will just, will win out in this one. I know the spread was like, I think it said like 17. I'm not much of a betting guy, but I would think NC State covers that. But I think Clemson wins this one convincingly. I would go. I don't see that defense. I would say 38-24.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the. I don't even know what to call them right now. I'm upset with how everything is
have
going.
The colors instead of blue and orange be black for the funeral.
Yeah. But as of Tuesday at 3 p.m., 3:30 Eastern, Billy Napier still has his job somehow. But it seems like the boosters are aware of top down what needs to happen. So it's not just, it needs to be a coach. It more than likely seems that it needs to be the athletic director, the AAU, which the AAU is the association that is in charge of athletics at Florida. And now, obviously, with the Ben Sass situation, which he was a president for about a year or so, and it came out that he was like scamming the university in a lot of ways. And the old president, Fox, is back. He's the interim president. So honestly, what needs to happen is, first and foremost, they need to get a president, because Fox is not staying. So they need to find someone that is going to be permanent to take over the university. That's not going to be a scam artist like Sass was. And then two, they need to clean house with the AAU, clean house with the athletic director, and clean house with the head coach. So it's going to take some time. And that's why, honestly, there's not movement right now. Because if there were movement, it would be like a whole firing squad. But I think they realize that they can't do all of that right now. They have to have steps to be able to get this in order before they can actually pull it off. But back to the game, it's two struggling teams. Mississippi State has looked putrid and way worse than Florida has, which is remarkable. But they're with the first-year head coach. It's in Starkville. It's a 11 a.m. Central kick, so it's going to be a really early game. I mean, this all sets up that Florida loses this game. It really does. And, because I've seen 11 a.m. Central kicks really bite them in the butt. And, Billy Napier has not proven to get the team ready on the road. I think they only have 2 road victories in 2 years. This is the first road game this year. Maybe he's changed some things. Maybe he figured it out. I don't know. But for the first 2 losses this season against Miami and Texas A&M, they look putrid and unorganized, and they scored a total of 3 points in the first half of both those games outside of one Montrell Johnson long run. So, 3 points basically of offense is disturbing. Like, you're not going to be able to win many games putting up that little of offense against big-time teams, especially when they're scoring 20 and 24 points against you. Like, you have to score minimum 17 points to balance, because the defense is terrible. I'm surprised Ron Roberts and Austin Armstrong haven't been fired, but what do? You just hired them. It's not going well. But usually an executive, when things aren't going well, you make moves, and he hasn't made any moves. So I don't know. Billy Napier just seems very inept, and I'm just ready for it to end. But like I said, there's a process that has to be followed before we can actually get to the end result. So, Ian, what are your thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, with this, I mean, again, what I saw with the A&M game, especially towards the end of it, and it just shows like the team and Napier knows this where they're on borrowed time. And it's a very volatile situation they're in. And we have seen teams, Nebraska with Scott Frost, LSU with Ed Orgeron, where the dysfunction affects the team on the field. And we saw that with A&M. And I think we're going to see that with Mississippi State. As bad as Mississippi State has looked, Napier has 2 road wins in his 2 years, South Carolina last year and Texas A&M. Oh, there's another one, Texas A&M, another volatile situation that affected the team. But, like, again, he couldn't even beat Vanderbilt on the road. Now you got to go into a very – Mississippi State's fans are loud. They got those cowbells ringing. It's a tough environment to win in. So, I mean, Spurrier barely won at when they had to play Mississippi State. That was always a trap game for the Gators. So, as bad as Mississippi State has been, Florida just is in a worse situation. And I just think I have no expectations that I could firmly believe that with a dead man walking on the sideline and a team that knows their coach is going to get fired, that they're going to be playing inspired enough or have a creative enough play calling to get through, a really tough road game. So I think Mississippi State, gets the win. This would be like Scott Strickland's parting gift for his old job. I'm going to go Bulldogs winning, let's say 27-17.
Yeah, and I'm not giving a score because I really don't care. Like, at this point, the season's lost. I mean, I said the other day, like, if they really wanted to do something, they would fire Billy now and then implement Urban Meyer, and they're not going to, because if they were going to do it, they would have already done it or something similar.
I do have not a better idea, but maybe more plausible one. Spurrier is employed by the university. He's an ambassador. Just be like, hey, coach, call a couple plays.
The only thing I say with that is just he's too much. He's way too old now. Like, he's like in his like late 70s, and it's just I don't want to put too much stress on him as just like wanting him to live a long life. Like, he doesn't need the stress of coaching.
They could just tell him, like, coach, literally, we're gonna like put you on the sideline. All you have to do is call a play, nothing else.
Yeah, and I would love that because he is honestly. What would be great is just have someone as the head coach right now, and then just have Spurrier calling plays. And I'm sure Spurrier would actually love that because he loves calling plays. Yeah. But again, it's more of like a pipe dream, and we realize that is not going to be reality. So let's move on to Kansas, West Virginia. Kansas lost to Illinois. West Virginia lost to Pitt at the last second, and Penn State. So I had high hopes for West Virginia, but honestly, this West Virginia team still has everything to play for, because if they win out, or at least win a large portion of their games, which is possible because they are a very strong team, that they could get to the Big 12 championship. And lo and behold, if they win the Big 12 championship, then they go to the playoffs. So there's still a lot to play for them. It seems like it's over, obviously, but it's not the same world that we lived in last year, like where we had a 4-team playoff. Now it's a 12-team playoff. Anything is possible. A 3-loss team is definitely a possibility. So I like West Virginia's chance here. It's in Morgantown. I think West Virginia can win like probably let's say like 30 to like 24. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, what's surprising about this game is, at least on Kansas's side, is that the defense has actually done pretty good. They've allowed at most 23 points. The offense has been sputtering, which is shocking. Jaden Daniels has thrown 6 interceptions already on the year in 3 games. that's not going to cut it, and the run game hasn't been able to complement it. I think Kansas's defense will do a good job limiting West Virginia, but they got to get that offense going. I think this is a close one, and this is one of those games where I actually think it could go the other way. But I think West Virginia has shown, besides the Penn State game, they took a loss. They should have won against Pitt, but I mean, dude, with how insanely tense that rivalry is, those games are going to happen. So for West Virginia, I'm going to give them a slight edge on this one. Green looked really good against Pitt. So I think they're going to win out. I'm going to go with a Mountaineer win. I think it'll be close, but I'm going to go with a 28-24 victory. But this is one of those games where the score can flip. If Jaden Daniels can be more consistent and be able to, find that, make easier decisions, or at least have play calling to give him like out routes, I think Kansas can really get something going there.
Yeah, and I mean, I am a fan of his, and it's just, we need to see more of him making these plays against better teams, because he's done well against some of the worst teams, and he's been hurt like most of the last couple of years. He's been hurt, so it's like until he can play a full season and really compete with these high level teams, the jury is still out on him. Everyone really likes him. I mean, he's very athletic. He's a gifted passer. He may need to work on his accuracy a little bit, but he's still a very strong quarterback. And I just want to see further into the season and more playing time because of just the injuries. Okay, moving on to this and another game of the biggest games of the day, but USC, Michigan in Ann Arbor, the first Big Ten game for USC. It's a big-time matchup against the defending national champion, but this Michigan team is very wounded. They got the brakes beat off of them by Texas in the second week of the season, and now they are going to be starting Orgy at quarterback instead of Dennis, I believe is his name.
It was
Davis Warren. Warren. Yeah. So what likely seems to be the possibility is that they're both probably going to play. I know they're just announcing that Orgy's the starter now, but I really feel like that they're both going to be in there during this game. Last week they struggled against Arkansas State, not a really big challenger, and Davis Warden was the starter in that game, and he threw 3 interceptions. So maybe this is the right move because Orgy's more athletic, can move the ball. USC's defenses seem to be turning around with Danton Lynn as the DC. So maybe they're a little worried that Warren will be just as turnover prone and shaky in the pocket. So I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of this Michigan team. They ran the ball really well last week against a very terrible team. But then the week before, when they played Michigan, they only ran the ball for 80 yards. And, they were ineffective. Texas is by far the best team in the country. And I will say that. So that is very hard to, determine how good this Michigan team is. But I don't think they're very good, regardless of how they did against Texas. Their games against Fresno State and Arkansas State are probably more telling, showing that they struggled against weaker opponents. Fresno State, a group of 5 team, and Arkansas State, I believe an FCS, or maybe did they get bumped up? I think they're an FCS.
The Red Wolves, they're D1.
Oh, they're SBC. They're Sunbelt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sunbelt. Yeah, sorry, Arkansas State. But either way, both group of 5 teams, and they struggled immensely against both of them. And Arkansas State is a lower end group of 5 team too, so they should have had their way with them, and they didn't. I don't like Michigan in this one. I like USC big. I think USC's offense, which I haven't even mentioned yet, is going to go off. I think Michigan's defense has been lacking, and USC is going to put up at least 38 points. I'm going to say USC probably wins this game like 42 to like 17. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, with this one, where USC and Michigan, they have a lot of history together. I wanted to point this out. I did my homework. They have met, and I think it was 7 Rose Bowls, and USC has won 6 out of 7. The last time SC went to Ann Arbor for a regular season game was in the 1950s, and Michigan won that one. So this is one of those situations. I believe their last Big Ten, like where they had to travel to play a Big Ten team, was Ohio State in 2011, and I might be off on that one, and I think they won that one. So they have some history going on the road. There's a lot of perception that, you know, them going on the road in these environments isn't the best, and there's a point to that because they played them early in the year. Again, it's similar to how I thought with the Texas game, where you're going to the big house, sellout crowd, weather's going to be colder. But I mean, like Texas and SC in terms of offensive efficiency, I think Texas is the better offense, but SC, I think with how well their passing attack is, and you saw how Quinn Ewers carved up Michigan's secondary, I wouldn't be surprised with the amount of speed those wide receivers SC has. They wouldn't be able to do the same and take advantage. I'm going to take SC winning this one, and I just don't see Michigan scoring enough points to keep up. So I'm going to go with the Trojans winning. I'm going to go with a 31-17 win for SC.
Hold on 1 second, Ian.
Yep.
Sorry about that. I'll edit it in the thing. I just wanted to get the focus right. I didn't have it on manual focus. Okay. All right. Yeah. So USC definitely gonna have a big game here, and you know that sets the stage up for them for the rest of the year. Honestly, because they play Wisconsin, they play a UCLA team that's wounded right now, and they play I think a Penn State team. But yeah, USC, honestly, they have. I said they were a playoff team to begin the year, and I feel like I was redeemed by saying that because they definitely feel like a really strong playoff team heading into into the midway point into the second half of the season. So I'm excited for them because, you know, last year was such a disappointment, and this year seems like the sky is the limit for them. So, okay, let's move on to another Big Ten team, but this time they're playing in Baton Rouge against LSU, UCLA. You know, I actually went back and looked at this Indiana team that UCLA lost to last week is the 11th best offense in the country. And so, like, you know, yes, it looked bad, but maybe they just had a bad day on defense. And I think that's just what it was. They played against a vastly superior offense that they probably underestimated, which I think all of us did. I don't think anybody even realized how good this Indiana offense is. But this LSU offense is strong, and it's on the road. So this is going to be a much bigger test. Really, the thing that needs to change is the Bruins offense needs to step up. Garber's struggled immensely against Indiana, and he needs to be better. There is, no room for mistakes in a game like this. This game is going to be like a 31 to like 24 game at best, because they haven't even scored more than 17 points all year. And so like if UCLA is going to really try to compete with them, they're going to have to hold LSU to like under 24 points, which is possible. USC and Danton Lynn did that the first week of the season. I don't envision it here. I think UCLA struggles in this one, and I think they lose. I think LSU wins like, I'm going to say like 31 to like 20. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, so with this one, UCLA on the road, and especially against SEC environments, they have not won a game against an SEC team on the road. And credit, they don't play SEC teams often.
Yeah.
But they have not won a road game since 2009 when they played Tennessee. And on top of that, they have not, I think they have a losing record against road teams when going on the road, playing SEC teams. The one winning record, of course, they have on the road is in Florida, because who else would it be? But now you're going to tell a UCLA team who is really reeling right now. They got blown out by Indiana at home. Then they barely scraped by against Hawaii. They somehow won against Boise State. But with how one-dimensional the offense has been, now you have to match that firepower with LSU, who just came off an emotional, roller coaster against South Carolina. I don't see with them going into Death Valley, especially if it's I think it's in the afternoon, but if it's a night game, I'm not predicting too much out of UCLA.
It's a 3:30 kick.
It's at 3. Okay, so there's a shot, but I think I'm going to go with LSU in this one. I just don't see, because UCLA, their entire offense has been Garber's. They haven't been able to really expand on that. So I think with this, I'm going to take the Tigers winning. I'll go, let's go 34-20 for the Bayou Bengals.
Okay, let's move on to Georgia Tech, Louisville. Can this Tech team get off the snide after losing to Syracuse 2 weeks ago? This Louisville team is number 19 in the country, but who have they really even played yet so far this year? They beat Austin Peay, Jacksonville State, and that's it. So they haven't really played anybody. This Tech team, beat Florida State that first week, so that win looks less and less appealing as we've gone on. But they were competitive against Syracuse and destroyed VMI and beat Georgia State. So I don't know. This Georgia Tech team is game. I think they have a good rushing attack with King and the running back they have. I can't remember his name, but they look like they can move the ball. Defensively, they've gotten better. This Louisville team, coached by Braum, is solid. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this game. I think it could go either way. I'm going to say it's going to be like a 28-24 game. And I'm just going to say Louisville wins it, because I think Louisville had such a good year last year that they know how to take care of these close games. And I think Georgia Tech is still learning that. But I think this game, like I said, is going to be close. So I got Louisville. Who you got, Ian?
For this one, I think it's going to come down to, I think these teams, again, very similar, but Georgia Tech's rushing attack has been really, really good, even in the Syracuse game. And even without that, Haynes Keene can move in the pocket. We know that he can do that, and he's become much more accurate on those play-action boot plays. And that is something Louisville hasn't seen yet this year. Georgia Tech knows, like I said, they lost a close one to Syracuse. That was a tough one, but that could have easily gone the other way. If the defense can tighten up and limit Louisville and play keep away like they did against Florida State, I think the Jackets will win this. I am going to take Georgia Tech getting the upset here.
Yeah.
Mostly because Louisville, they've only played 2 games, and it's been to some layup teams. And credit, they have looked great against those teams. But now you're playing a battle-tested team that just had 2 ACC teams, Florida State, and they barely lost to Syracuse, and they could have won that one. So I'm going to take the Jackets winning this one. I think it'll be close, but I think with them, playing keep away and chewing that clock, I'm going to go Georgia Tech winning. I'll go close. I'll go 27-21 for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and I like the fact that we both split on this because I think it's that close of a game that either one of these teams could win. And I'm excited to watch it. I know I don't have much going on Saturday, so I'm going to probably have the studio here because I've got my desktop, I've got my 50-inch TV, I've got my laptop, and I've got a tablet too, so I can watch it on 5 different screens. I'm definitely going to be watching that. Dude, the 3:30 hour is the USC Michigan game, the UCLA LSU game, the Georgia Tech Louisville game, and then I believe the Utah Oklahoma State game. And so it's dude, and we're just about to talk about it, but huge games at the 3:30 hour, which I love because I think that's my favorite hour of football is the 3:30. I don't know, just something back to the days of CBS when CBS really conquered that hour, the 3:30 hour for having big time games. Speaking of that Utah Oklahoma State game, let's move on to that. So Utah, I was looking into the injury report for Cam Rising. It was a ring finger, I believe, on his throwing hand, and he had to have sutures, and it looks like he's going to play. According to Brett McMurphy, he said that wide receiver Dorian Singer said that Cam Rising will play. There's some other sources saying that he would return. So it looks more than likely that he's going to play, which is huge for them because they are nowhere near as good without him. He is definitely their best signal caller and gives them the best chance of winning. I am not the biggest fan of Oklahoma State. I didn't think they looked that great against Arkansas. I thought they kind of lucked into that one, and I know we talked about that. And, that just lends itself to luck running out because you can be lucky for a game or two, but if you're trying to run your program on the fact that you're going to luck out against good teams, and they've played 2 bad teams in San Diego, South Dakota State and Tulsa, but Arkansas is a better team with better talent, and they were lucky to win that one. They were very lucky. I think that Utah is going to win this game. I think Utah is going to win probably real close, 28-20, and they may score late. They may score a late field goal to make it an 8-point game. And Oklahoma State is okay offensively, but they didn't look that great defensively. They let Green for Arkansas, run and throw all over them. Cam Rising is a better quarterback than Green as of right now. And, I think if Cam's healthy in this game, he's going to put up at least 250, and they should win this game pretty handedly. What do you got, Ian?
For this one, it's going to come, like you said, I think it's going to come down to how the defense will perform, but Utah has done very good defensively this year. I think they're in the top 25 in total defense.
Yeah.
So they definitely can take advantage of kind of very middling OK State team, especially if they can, the main engine has been Ollie Gordon, and he's actually been very quiet this year, which is surprising.
Yeah.
They're going to try to feed him again, try to get those outside runs. But if Utah forces Bowman to pass and just play zone, they can win that because Bowman can't scramble as well. So if you make them, go into a passing and play a cover 2 defense, you can jump on them. So I think with that, Utah will win. I think Oklahoma State makes it competitive in the first half, but Utah like just wears them out. It is on the road. Utah, we have mentioned they are fantastic at home, but I didn't do the homework, but I can't remember the last time they've actually won a ranked road game.
Yeah, it's probably
So
been a while.
it's been a minute. So this is a real test for Utah, especially with real good measuring stick game, especially with them in the Big 12 now. But with Utah, I'm going to take them winning close. Again, this could be one where because it's on the road, it can be tough for Utah. But I'm going to go Utes winning. I'll go 27-23 Utes.
Okay, moving on to surprise game. This would be such a big game, but Vanderbilt, Missouri, both undefeated. Missouri coming off a huge win against Boston College. Vanderbilt earlier in the season beat Va Tech. These teams are, this could be a really interesting game because Vanderbilt with their quarterback, I can't remember his name. He is definitely, athletic, and he, can move the ball when needed. And, it's not a situation of Vanderbilt in the past where they've struggled to move the ball. But they lost. I thought they were undefeated.
They
I didn't
lost
realize
to
they
Georgia
lost to
State.
Georgia State. Yeah. Correct myself. I didn't realize that. I thought they were undefeated. But still, this Vanderbilt team is still, sprightly. Pavia, Diego Pavia. That's the guy. Okay, so he has looked good in games. He had like nearly 300 yards against Va Tech. And then, I think this Missouri team, their defense is solid. Not as probably as good as it was last year, but their offense was able to figure things out against BC and to take that one home. Struggling against a team like Georgia State. I don't know how good Georgia State is. They're in the Sun Belt, right?
Yes.
And so like, it's not a good look that Vanderbilt lost to him, but also Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt. So I'm going to say Pavia does well in this game, probably puts up like 200 yards, but that Missouri probably scores like 34 and Vanderbilt probably puts up like 20. So 34-20. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, I think for both of these teams, Vandy, for Vandy, it's built on the speed of Pavia and especially on how mobile he can be finding receivers. The thing is, Missouri kind of already dealt with that with Castellanos and BC. Not saying the play calling is identical, but there is a hint of similarity between the two of Vanderbilt and Boston College. The difference is Boston College relies on a power run and Vandy relies on speed. So now if they could stop, power running, can they stop how fast Vandy can be? And I think they can. Missouri, I think, will just put up enough points and keep enough distance away from Vanderbilt to where they just can't come back. And I think they know how to win a game like this. So I'm going to take Mizzou winning. I'll go with 31-21 win for the Tigers.
Okay, moving on to TCU SMU. Rhett Lashley has benched Preston Stone in favor of Kevin Jennings, who Jennings took over in the BYU game, and they struggled in that game. I don't know what to make of this team now. They've kind of struggled against Nevada, struggled against BYU, and lost. This TCU team had an epic collapse against UCF last week. They were moving the ball. I like their quarterback, but I don't know. This is kind of this is a coin flip game. I'm gonna say probably I'm gonna say TCU. I'm gonna go with that one. I feel like they'll get off the snide. I feel like they're better than SMU right now, and I like TCU in this one. I'll probably say like a 34-17. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, the also shout out to this being a old not only a Southwest Conference rivalry but a Conference USA rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. TCU has really done a good job dominating in this series. And I think with this one, SMU just like, they're going with Jennings now. They can't, offensively they haven't looked good except the win against FCS. I think that was Houston Christian. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so against FBS teams, they have not looked as good as we think they can be. And for TCU, Hoover, I think he's the first quarterback to pass for 1,000 yards, and it's only the fourth game of the season.
Right.
So if TCU struggled, with like teams like Nevada, I can't see them keeping up, or SMU struggled with teams like
Yeah.
Nevada. I don't see them keeping up with TCU. I think TCU is just going to be able to pass around. I think for, as long as they don't fall asleep at the wheel like they did against UCF, TCU should have this one. And I'm going to take the Frogs winning. I'll go a 38-20 win for TCU.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to our biggest game of the day for who the teams we cover. USF going up against Miami. I'm wearing my freshman year 2002 shirt that I bought at the bookstore at USF St. Pete that was in the Coquina Hall, I believe. It's not the Davis Hall. It's the one next to it. I believe it's Coquina.
I know which one you're talking about. It got renamed. I forgot what
Yeah,
the name
it's
was.
no
I haven't
longer
been to
that
the campus
anymore.
in
But
forever.
it's the one where they have the pool and they rent out stuff to you there. And so, obviously this is a very old shirt. I'm just amazed that it still fits me. But no, I'm excited for this game. This is a huge stepping stone, a huge guide stone, a huge moment for the program, because a win here just sets the stage for all kinds of notoriety the rest of the year. Right now Miami is considered a darling of the playoff people, and I've seen anywhere from like third or fourth that they're going to be picked for the automatic bye. So they have a chance to win the ACC regardless of this game. So it doesn't hurt them a ton if they lose it, but it would hurt USF if they lose this as well, because that would be two losses. It still would be an outside chance of getting into the playoff, but it would be a struggle. But if they win this game, if they can make a statement and say, hey, we are good enough to play with the big boys, we're good enough to play with some of the best talent in the country. And I think they can. The game is at home at Raymond James. They've opened up the 300 level for ticketing, at least one side. I don't know if the other side got opened up yet. I think it's probably close because a lot of people are wanting to go to this game. And, the excitement level is through the roof. Byron Brown is on the doorstep of getting into the Heisman race. If he's going to have a moment, it can be in a game like this. The defense played a lot better after giving up 14 points in that Southern Miss game, only giving up 10 more after that, and giving up and collecting a bunch of turnovers. The offense looked great in that Southern Miss game. Kelly Joyner, Naquan Wright. Like I said, Byram had a really good game. There is a lot to like about this team. They played very well against Alabama 2 weeks ago. And, they were in that game until like 6 minutes left. It was a 5-point game with 6 minutes left, and they were right there. So I think they can beat this team. I want to hear your prediction first before I give mine, but let's hear your thoughts, Ian.
Yeah, so in the history of these teams, they actually have played each other 5 times. It's the most USF has played one of the big 3 schools.
I was at one of those. I was at the Orange Bowl in 2005.
Yeah.
It was terrible. I'm glad that place destroyed.
Yeah, it was the original Orange Bowl, and then they've actually played in Tampa, I think, like 3 times. It's also the most any team has been to USF as the away team. So there's some history here. USF did win in 2010, and then the year after, it was like a 6-3 win for Miami. So there's history here. I wanted to know when looking at doing the homework, USF's offense has scored more than 20 points twice in the 5 games. And that was 2013, which was the last time they played, and in 2010 when they won. And those offenses pale in comparison to what USF has now.
Yeah.
What it's going to come down to is the rushing attack of USF offensively. If USF, because we saw Miami's defense, brutally honest, they haven't really played any good offenses yet. Florida is like just a life raft right now. And then you have Florida A&M and Ball State. And they did, they did their job well against those teams. But now you're playing a really, really strong and mobile team. They motion, jet sweeps, either give it to Naquan Wright. And I saw, which I was hoping to see, was Byron Brown on those read options. If they can use that effectively and confuse with those read option plays, USF can put points up. This is going to be the crutch of the game. Can USF's defense? They did a great job responding to adversity in the Southern Miss game. They went down 14-0 when Southern Miss opened up all the kitchen sink against them. And I got real worried it was going to be a replay of the UAB game, the Florida Atlantic game. I was like, oh, please do not let this be a shootout, because they're not going to win if it is down by 14 early. And they adjusted. They did very good. And the same thing with Alabama. They just ran out of gas on that one. I think, though, Cam Ward is going to be obviously their focal point. And the comparison is to Jalen Milroe that USF has played. Jalen Milroe played pretty good, not fantastic, but he made enough plays, especially towards the end, but credit, that was a gas defense. Mobile quarterbacks, USF's defense, we have seen them struggle, especially with the UTSA game last year. And Cam Ward, in my opinion, is the best mobile quarterback in the country. So I think with that, I think USF will try to make it a shootout, but if Miami gets the ball last, I don't see the defense holding up. The defense needs at least like 4 stops, just 4 stops to have a chance, and I just don't see that right now. They could prove me wrong, absolutely. They did great against Bama, but it's going to be really tough for this. This will obviously be the biggest challenge for USF besides the Bama game. And I think they know how important this game is, and they'll rise to the occasion. But in the end, I just think Miami will do more, and they have enough playmakers to get out of Tampa alive. I think it's actually going to be close, but it might be a similar thing with Bama where they just don't have enough gas in the tank to finish it off. I'm going to take the Hurricanes winning this one. I'm going to go with a 31 to let's say like 26-27 game for the Miami.
I will counter that Cam Ward is mobile, but he doesn't run the ball a ton. So he had no rushing yards last week, and he doesn't normally run the ball. He just likes to be more elusive in the pocket, which helps him in the passing game. But I will say in that Florida game, which has been his best test so far, even though it was not much of a test, I will say he threw quite a few times, at least 3 or 4 times across his body into the middle of the field. And one had a lucky catch by Restrepo, and then Shamar James picked off one. And like he had multiple times where if it was a normal defense, not this terrible Florida defense, it would have been picked off. So he has been fortunate that he has played terrible teams so far and that he's not been tested truly. And, that's good. He feasted a lot last year on bad teams, and that's what he does. He feasts on bad teams. I get it. But when he comes up against good teams, he struggles. And I think he's going to struggle against this team. I think USF is going to be able to move the ball effectively enough that he doesn't have the ball as much. And if that's the case, that they will struggle as well. I just feel like USF's defense has proved itself the last couple of weeks. I know that Alabama game sticks out because it was 42 points, but you know what? they put up that much points because they were dead tired and the game was basically out of hand after that one score anyways, when it was like 6 minutes left. So, you know, I feel like this USF defense can make the plays. I think they can make mistakes or force mistakes by Cam Ward, which if that happens, then USF will take advantage of those mistakes. And then I'm thinking like a 35-28 game USF. That's what I got. Okay, let's finish off these real quick and call it a day. Cal, Florida State. I'm just curious, do you think Florida State even puts up a fight in this one?
So, okay, two things about this game. One, if you were to tell me the 3-0 team would be Cal and the 0-3 team would be Florida State,
right.
And on top of that, like literally tell me this last year, not only is this an ACC conference game, but Cal would be the undefeated team and Florida State would be the winless one, I would be like, dude, I want to know what drugs you have because that sounds like a good time. I'm thinking like there's no way, right? There's no way Florida State can lose 4 in a row to start the year, right? This isn't even a prediction. I'm like you gotta think like some light bulb will pop on that they could, you know what, screw it. I'm predicting them to win. What is the fourth time going to do for me? Florida State wins on a freaking safety. Let's go like 12-7 Seminoles. Actually, that would be 12-10. Hey, there you go. They went on a safety.
Okay. Moving on the last two. This is a big one. Tennessee, Oklahoma. Tennessee, like I said, only has faced NC State. The other two games were against some tomato cans. The NC State offense was very weak, but they had 3 turnovers that helped Tennessee in that game. But Nico also had 2 picks. So I think Oklahoma struggles a lot lately. They struggled against Houston. They looked a little bit better against Tulane, but Jackson Arnold, I don't know. He was a 5-star recruit, hasn't looked the best, hasn't been like someone that stand out. He can run the ball. I think he had like over 100 yards against either Tulane or Houston. I think it was Tulane. And, he's looked good on the ground. Does that continue against Tennessee, who has a pretty decent defense? This is both of these teams' first real test, both undefeated. Oklahoma's first SEC game. It's in Norman. I think I like Oklahoma because it's in Norman. And I think, Josh Heupel's return to Norman, where he was, the national championship winning quarterback and the offensive coordinator for a period of time. This is going to be tough for him. It's going to be an emotional game for him, but he's the coach. So that like kind of negates things because he's not playing. I still think this Tennessee team is not ready for prime time. I think they're going to lose this game. And I think OU wins like probably 27-20. What do you got, Ian?
So here's the interesting thing. Since Heupel has been hired at Tennessee, he has yet to win a road ranked game. And I'm trying to remember the last time. I think it's literally been over 40, 50 games. Not 50. Wow. I think it's over 40 games since Tennessee has won a ranked road game. Like played a ranked team on the road and won.
Yeah.
So like we're going back to like Fulmer era.
Wow.
It has been a minute. Now I don't know the specifics of it, but I'm almost positive it's been that long.
Yeah.
So now you got to go to Norman, and there's going to be a lot of energy in Oklahoma. They know they have to play better. Man, you know what? I think Tennessee finds a way to get it done because they're, yes, Oklahoma, they beat a tough Tulane team. But I'm thinking of like, games against Houston where they might just like sweep into it. And I think Tennessee might have the best offense in the country. I think I'm going to take the Vols winning this one. Yeah, I'll take Tennessee. I think, again, this might be one where it can flip the other way, but I'll take Tennessee winning and then break whatever freaking streak they had. But I think they win. I'll go, let's go 30-21.
All right, last game, Kansas State, BYU. I really like this Kansas State team with Avery Johnson. He's looking very, I don't know how to describe it. He's very poised in the pocket. He's efficient. He runs the ball very well. He's fast. He's a sturdy guy, so he can take on hits. This BYU team has been, solid. But I think this Kansas State team is just going to take it to the next level because they beat Tulane on the road. They just beat Arizona. And now I feel like they'll beat this BYU team. And if they beat them, then they have a lot to play for this, the second half of this season. And so I got Kansas State in this one. I'm going to say like 34-17. What do you got?
Yeah, with these two, you got Cougars and Wildcats going at each other, so it'll be fun. And Provo is a tough place to win at.
Oh, yeah.
But I think K-State, they have enough experience in this one. I think they'll get it done. I think this might be another close one, but I'm going to take Wildcats winning. I'll go with a 28-22 win for K-State.
Nice. Okay, that is the show. We're excited about these games coming up this weekend. A lot of big-time games. We'll have the show on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can find it on YouTube Live, which will be at Hater Radio to find that, on X, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can find us at Hater_radio. For Facebook, it is Hater Radio CFB. Ian, what are your socials?
Yes, at Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, it's at G_Gator_G.
Yeah, so like, subscribe, follow, comment, help us out in the algorithm. It really supports us. And, we're over 500 subscribers on YouTube, so this thing is really cooking. And so we'll talk to you then. Enjoy these games and have a good weekend.